Hi, Jason. Thanks for organizing the call. Do you recommend joining any advisory councils? Really depends on what you're doing on these councils. And also how you get into them. The selection process is something that can count as strong evidence potentially for membership or even help reinforce the other criteria that you are presenting. Because if you can show that you went through a rigorous selection process where you were picked out of hundreds, maybe even thousands of other top professionals in your field, that could count as strong evidence for not just final merits, but also reinforce the criteria you were claiming. Perhaps you have claimed as part of your leading a critical role, you're an expert in a particular field, and then you were then picked for this highly prestigious advisory council where you were again selected out of hundreds of other professionals. That could be where advisory councils could help. I think where they could help less is if you can just get in if you meet some sort of minimum bar, and there are thousands of these advisory council members. The more exclusive the opportunity, generally speaking, the better, because the more you can then show that you were recognized for your work, you generated a claim for your work such that you were then invited to these exclusive, prestigious opportunities. So that's how advisory councils could work. It really depends on the advisory council and also the context in which you present that council and membership to that council. All right, since there are no questions, so I did speak with an EB-1A recipient just now, and a couple of interesting things came up in the conversation. So these are just these conversations I've been having as part of the video resources that I'm building out for my paid newsletter, which is $12 per month. So I've been asking a lot of these EB-1A recipients questions like, how did you meet leading a critical role? How did you explain your work to a lawyer? And all these other questions that a lot of you have. And I've been recording these conversations and putting them and turning them into videos as part of the video resources of my newsletter. So that's something that you're interested in. Definitely look at the video resources. And if you want more profile building opportunities, check out my profile building opportunities database, which currently contains over 230 profile building opportunities for EB-1A, EB-2 NIW, and 01. Right now, the database covers fields like AI, software engineering, supply chain, mechanical engineering, cybersecurity, and many other fields. You can get access to my database by becoming a paid subscriber to my newsletter, which is currently $12 a month. And as part of the newsletter, you will also get access to video resources that I am currently developing by interviewing EB-1A recipients to get insights on how they built their profiles and eventually got approved for EB-1A. These video resources will be added to the newsletter resources every week. You will also get access to my other newsletter resources, which includes additional newsletter posts, as well as a running list of people you can reach out to who may be able to introduce you to profile building opportunities. A lot of these people are a part of universities, run hackathons, help run conferences, the kinds of people you want to be talking to if you want to get more profile building opportunities. So I'll be continually adding to this list of contacts, and when you reach out to these people, you can mention my name in your initial outreach email. You will also get access to my AAO decisions reviews. These decisions go into USCIS's reasoning for initially rejecting an EB-1A petition. If you're applying for EB-1A, you'll probably want to review these decisions to better understand how USCIS thinks about EB-1A. So that's what you get access to as a paid subscriber to my newsletter. Back to the video. Another question also, how do we distinguish analytics, data science, AI niche, because everything is related? Reviewing books in Python helps as evidence if we choose data science as a niche. So how you think about your niche is it's not really field specific. I've seen it defined more as an occupation or like a specific role within a field. So for example, if you're a data scientist at an AI company, you're technically in both data science and AI. That doesn't really matter as much for your case as showing that you've generated a claim in the field. It's not like if you define your niche as data science, everything that's AI related that you've done is disregarded. You're trying to tell a story. You're trying to show a compelling narrative for how you have risen to the top of your field. So if you're reviewing books in Python is generally if you're reviewing like a very well-known book in Python, then that's generally regarded as something that's only reserved for top professionals in your field. For both data science and AI, you would in general be strengthening your final merits, even if, well, it depends on how directly, if it's like completely unrelated to your niche, that's different. But as long as you're doing activities that are considered prestigious, that are in allied fields, like for AI, it's data science or potentially analytics, machine learning, then you're fine. So you don't, in fact, if you're given a prestigious opportunity that is just in software engineering in general, that could still be something you want to do because that could lead to more niche specific opportunities. It also shows that you have more general impact across different disciplines. Of course, don't go for something that's completely unrelated to your niche. Say if you're an AI, don't go for something that's like completely related, like, I don't know, off the top, like education or something like that, unless that is part of your niche. But it's fine to do things that are slightly outside of your specific niche and are in the general field. You don't have to concentrate everything that you're doing for profile building on your specific niche. You can look at allied fields for opportunities as well. Any other questions? Yeah, you're welcome, Monisha. And I can also briefly show everyone what the resources currently look like for the newsletter. So a lot of you know that I am working on these resources, but just to give you a better sense of what I'm working on right now. So there's the profile building opportunities database. Everyone knows about that. So 230 plus opportunities right now in fields like AI, data science, semiconductors, software engineering, product management, cloud computing, all these fields at the bottom here. So I'm going as field specific as possible. So right now, tech in general has the most opportunities. So this is the profile building opportunities database for those of you who are interested. And this is part of my paid newsletter, which is $12 per month. I also go through AAO decisions. These are decisions that go into USCIS's reasoning for initially denying an EB-1A petition. So that's where you can get direct insight into how USCIS adjudicates EB-1As, or as close to that as possible. And that's something new that I'm now working on is video resources. So these are videos, recorded conversations that I'm doing with EB-1A recipients. So Moody is an EB-1A recipient that I have started to work with. He went straight from F1 to EB-1A and is in the field of AI and machine learning and has a lot of interesting insights about how he built his case. He only claimed 4 criteria, but really only had 3 strong criteria. But he was able to, even after an RFE that questioned 2 of his 3 strong criteria, was able to get approved for EB-1A. So I've uploaded a couple of videos already from that conversation that I've had with Moody, and we're going to be doing resume reviews as well. So I do these videos every week with the EB-1A recipients I work with. Something we're going to start looking into is reviewing people's resumes, because one problem that Moody experienced was he had to make sure he was properly explaining his work to not only his references but also his lawyer as well. And his resume didn't really bring out every single little thing that could count towards his case. So by us reviewing resumes, we'll be able to give you suggestions on what to stress, what to emphasize in your particular profile based on your resume when talking to lawyers and when talking to your references. And then maybe we'll also go into putting together summaries of your work. That's something that Moody did well and was able to explain in layperson's terms, his complex work in machine learning and AI. So that's something we will start doing as well, and I'll start uploading these resume reviews as videos, and I'll take out all identifying information so you'll remain completely anonymous. But this is just to give all of you a sense of what things to focus on to talk about when talking to a lawyer and when talking to your references. But here are just some of the videos that I've uploaded so far. I'll be adding more videos every week based on the recorded conversations I'll be having with EB-1A recipients. So that's something I'll be building out as well, just to give you all some context and some information about how these people built their EB-1A profiles and then eventually got approved. So those are the resources. Having LinkedIn followers, newsletter help? If yes, at minimum, how many followers do you suggest has strong evidence? This is difficult to claim because there's really not much information about this, but I would say if you really want to use that metric or like newsletter reader base as some sort of metric to help with your case, probably hundreds of thousands. Depends on the niche, depends on how big it is. Also depends on how you measure up against other newsletters, other people in your field who are on LinkedIn. If you can show that you're pretty much at the top in terms of following, then that could potentially help. But it would most likely just help with final merits. Not so much anything else, if at all even. But that being said, having that kind of acclaim in your field can still help you get lots of opportunities. So it could help you work towards the other criteria. But you would have to have probably tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands followers and people reading your newsletter. But yeah. Interesting, yes. Video resources is something I've been thinking about doing. I've just been reaching out to a lot of EB-1A recipients so that they can explain how they built their profiles. And that's something I'll be adding more of as part of the paid newsletter, which is $12 per month. Any other questions? Any other questions? I have one here. In case of Moody, what was his timeline for his prep? I mean, for profile building. So his profile building was more focused on bringing out the evidence that he eventually relied on to claim leading a critical role, high salary, and original contributions. The difficulty there was showing as much evidence as possible that he was doing significant work that was influencing his entire field. So he focused a lot on reference letters, on documenting his workplace accomplishments. He created a model that was unique to the field at the time, very unique, and that completely transformed the field. So to make that bold of a claim, he needed a lot of evidence to back up his claim. I think it took like 6 months, but that was because he was already doing work that made him one of the top professionals within his niche. He just needed a lot of time to document everything he had done and the comparative metrics and evidence that he would, and the comparative metrics and evidence he needed to present. And even then he got questioned. He got an RFE for both leading a critical role and original contributions. So yeah, but because he had done all the prep, he was able to address the RFE. For him, it took around 6 months. But that was because he took a more, I guess, a less common approach, which is claim 3 and claim 4, but really have only 3 strong criteria. Because for him, had one of his criteria been struck down, been struck down, he would have gotten denied, even with strong final merits. So, yeah. Generally, for people in his position, 6 months to a year, maybe even 2 years is what how long people usually take, and that's because they work towards judging and authorship, so they can claim 4 to 5 strong criteria. But it is possible to just claim 3. It's just if one gets denied, then it doesn't matter how strong your case is, you're going to get a denial. Any other questions? You're saying just subscribe to something. Could you please show how to access the Excel? Yeah, I'll share that with you right after this live stream. Any other questions? Any other questions? I can take a few more. Another thing that came up in my conversation with Moody was that he's a rest of the world national. He went for NIW, and the NIW process really helped him get acquainted with the evidence collection process. And because of his NIW, he just got used to documenting his workplace accomplishments, documenting the work he was doing for his employers, and following up with people and keeping in touch with people so that he could get some strong references down the line. And that's what really helped him with EB-1A as well. So he applied for EB-1A pretty shortly after NIW. But for example, I think because of NIW, he was already in contact with some professors from his alma mater, and they were able to provide some strong academic perspectives on his EB-1A, and they were able to link his education, his master's degree, and what he had done to his then work and current work in machine learning. So being able to create that thread, I think, made for a more interesting case because it showed how quickly he had been able to apply what he had learned in his master's program to a growing field like machine learning. And what he did, his work was able to transform the industry in that multiple US companies started adopting the outputs of the model that he had worked on. And to tie something as significant as that to his education just showed that he had progressed really quickly. That in a couple of years, he had been able to transform a niche part of an industry. So I think that just added to the compelling narrative aspect of his case. Jill asks, what are the major reasons for RFE denial for EB-1A? Off the top of my head, you might want to ask some lawyers as well. Generally speaking, lack of a claim, lack of recognition. So just because you meet a bunch of criteria does not mean that you have a strong EB-1A case, because final merits is also the next step in EB-1A that a lot of people don't really think about, showing that you've generated significant acclaim or recognition for your work to indicate that you've risen to the top of your field. A lot of people just do judging, authorship, and then maybe they check off like another criterion that is not an anchor criterion, like leading or critical role or original contributions. That just, you can check off the criteria, even if you're a mid-level or junior professional. It's going to be hard to show that you've actually risen to the top of your field, generated acclaim for your work. That is something that is commonly overlooked because people don't really look at the second step of EB-1A evaluations, which is final merits. So that's one major reason. So Rob says, question for NIW. What is the question? So Rob, what's the question for NIW? So Rob asks, I am a cybersecurity professional. Can I tie my work with latest security incidents and show how improvements in the field is helping U.S. economy and U.S. government? Yeah, it sounds like the start of an interesting proposed endeavor. You may want to tie your work, as in your work in the field, as in your expertise in the field, to how you intend to contribute to the field of cybersecurity, and then use these security incidents as context for why this is important. You don't want to tie your specific work with your employer, more so how you have contributed to the field at large. That's something you want to think about for a proposed endeavor. That being said, NIW is still highly discretionary. It's not criteria-based, really. It's more difficult in that adjudication standards keep varying. There's a lot of discretion because discretion is baked into NIW. But with this kind of proposed endeavor, since it is tied to something that's still top of mind for the US, so cybersecurity incidents, if you can tie your expertise in the industry as a whole to contributing to this field of national interest, then yeah, that could lead to, that could potentially be a strong foundation for a proposed endeavor. Any other questions? I can take a couple more. Janelle asks, currently I'm solving complex Amazon error problem, which is directly impacting the supply chain operations and at delivery of packages across the globe. Is this impactful to show? That could be the foundation for leading a critical role, depending on your role within the team that is solving this problem. Could even be original contributions if you have come up with a specific method for solving this problem and it is influencing the entire field as a whole and is also maybe transforming other logistics companies in the US. You also want to quantify the impact you are making. So if that means millions saved for Amazon or millions generated for Amazon because of the scalability of your work, that could be something that you could emphasize and show that you are in a leading or critical role because of how much revenue you're generating for your company or saving for your company. So yeah, it could count as strong evidence for leading a critical role and even original contributions depending on the impact of your work outside of your company. Take one more question. Any other questions? If no other, you're welcome, Janelle. Great. There are no other questions. I'll end the stream there, and feel free to check out. I'll put the link to the newsletter as well in the comments section for those of you who are interested. And thanks again, everyone, for joining today's live stream. Thanks, everyone.